NBA analysts get paid every single year to give their takes and predictions on things that will unfold. They're made to be looked at like they know exactly what they're talking about. They give their opinions with such conviction,
"You ain't that damn good, stop acting like it!"
that many people buy into it. But over the years, almost all of them have given predictions that were so inaccurate and so terribly wrong, it'll make you question how some of them even still have jobs. Like back in 2019, Zion Williamson was the first overall pick, while the highly publicized prospect Bol fell all the way to the 44th pick in the draft that year. Well, that didn't stop Shaquille O'Neal from 2 days later saying that he would start a team with...
I don't even think I'd go with Zion. Believe it or not, I would go with Bol. He's 7'6", he can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass. Like Zion's dunker. You ain't gonna be able to do all that.
There's so many things wrong with what he said here. He said Bol was 7'6" when he's really only 7'2". He said all Zion could do is dunk and that won't work in the NBA when 99% of Shaq's career consisted of moves around the basket and dunking the ball, and him saying he'd rather start a team with Bol over Zion means that if he was in charge of a team, he would have drafted Bol first overall. He even doubled down a month later after Bol got some preseason playing time and made some impressive highlights, saying,
"I want an apology from all you guys. At the beginning of the year, they asked me who I would start a team with. I said Bol, and all you guys laughed at me.
Hey, and he has a handle.
With Steph Curry for him.
He has a handle.
Well, as we know, it's been 3 years and Zion and Bol are on two complete opposite ends of the league right now. A hot take this bad about an up-and-coming player reminds me of another big man's terrible prediction. But first, I want to give a shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring another video. They're the ticketing app that makes buying them super simple. They're the only one I use and ever will because it's by far the easiest way to buy tickets. Look, I've got it right here on my phone, and I can use it to search for concerts, comedy shows, basketball, football, baseball, and pretty much any live shows you can think of. SeatGeek takes tickets from all of these from all over the web and puts them into one place to make buying super simple. I used it recently to go to a Tom Segura comedy show, and I got a great deal. You just go on the app, find your show, and look for your tickets. Green deals are good and red means bad. So I just selected a green deal, and from there, payment was fast, simple, and SeatGeek sent the tickets straight to my phone, so all I had to do was scan them and I was in. Now this all sounds nice, so don't worry, I've got the hookup. Just use code SWEAT for $20 off at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your purchase with promo code SWEAT. Just make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. Most of us will remember high school phenom Thon Maker, who was a 7-foot guard and had one of the craziest high school mixtapes we've ever seen. And because of it, a lot of people had him hyped up as very similar to Bol. So he was drafted with the 10th overall pick, and in the offseason, after a very disappointing rookie season, Kevin Garnett worked with him. And apparently he was so impressed that he said Thon Maker was the future MVP of the league, and that he reminded him a lot of himself when he was younger, saying that the Bucks had a future MVP and defensive monster on their hands. Well, it was a top tier prediction, just about the wrong player. So for that reason, it's easily one of the worst, seeing that not only would Thon Maker never average over 5 points or 3 rebounds a game, but that he only lasted 5 years before being forced to play overseas, which was where Luka Doncic made a name for himself. But apparently not everyone got the memo, including Max Kellerman, who's given us some of the outright worst takes and predictions over the past 5 years. One of those came before the 2018 NBA draft, where he tried to say Wendell Carter Jr. and Jaren Jackson Jr. were more likely to be successful players in the NBA than Luka Doncic.
And I'm not talking about Doncic, who apparently doesn't react well to pressure on the ball. No, not great if he's going to be a primary ball handler. I look at guys like Jaren Jackson and Wendell Carter. I see much more of the kind of modern kind of star than I do in either Ayton or Doncic, to tell you the truth.
He then followed that up by saying he only watched one video of Luka playing, and that those two players would be better draft picks. Well, maybe if you're going to be on ESPN and national TV, you should do a little bit more research, so you don't look like a... Colin Cowherd's another guy that's been on ESPN for years, and he's respected by a lot of people, but that number probably dropped a good amount after this take.
Kid's a really, I mean, he's better than Ricky Rubio, but he doesn't he doesn't look special to me. He doesn't pop athletically.
I think Marvin Bagley's interesting too.
Okay, now I would draft him number 1. He's the Duke kid. Yeah. He is the one guy I would say, all right, that's my number 1 pick.
Of course, it's impossible to predict the NBA draft right all the time, but when you're getting paid and it's your job, you just gotta do better. To compare Luka to Ricky Rubio, then saying you would take Marvin Bagley first overall is probably the worst possible thing you could have said about the 2018 NBA draft. But bad predictions have been going on for years, and as for Skip Bayless, they've been occurring all of his life. But here's one specifically.
34% said
MJ would beat LeBron James one-on-one right now at the age of 52.
You know, Stephen A.
Oh
Smith,
gosh, don't.
he just might be able to.
Don't do
He
this.
just might be able to.
If you have no prior experience playing basketball in the NBA and you know nothing about the sport, you probably shouldn't have a job on TV, which is probably why we don't see much of this man on our screen, who once infamously said before the 2009 NBA draft that Steph Curry doesn't have as much upside as Ricky Rubio, and Brandon Jennings, Johnny Flynn, Patty Mills, and Jeff Teague are all more athletic. What is it with comparing these guys to Ricky Rubio? Either way, at the time this tweet wasn't all that terrible, seeing that no one really saw Steph's potential, which is why he was drafted 7th overall after both Rubio and Flynn, but to have your name attached to this terrible prediction forever is rough. So it looks like Doug and the Timberwolves are alone on this one. But speaking of Steph Curry, let's circle back around to Max Kellerman, who had also never played in the NBA, and it's sounding more and more like it by the minute, because back in 2019, Max said that with the fate of the universe on the line,
Fate of the universe on the line. I want open shot, not go get it. I want Iguodala taking that shot for me.
he would choose to have a game-winning shot be taken by Andre Iguodala over Steph Curry. Let's just hope Max is never in charge of the fate of the universe. No matter what the shot, day or night, hot or cold, from whatever distance, I'm taking Steph Curry to make it. Then to make matters even worse, when Max told Andre Iguodala his argument,
He crazy.
that must have been a hard year for Max personally, because for him to continuously put out this much garbage, something must have been going on in his life. Because he continued in the same year in 2019 saying,
Does Harden deserve to be first team All-NBA?
Nope. I had an inkling, I had a feeling that I was going to be sitting here this time this year saying James Harden did it. He flipped the script. He goes from the poster child for choking, as an MVP caliber player in the regular season and then choking when it mattered most, to a guy who's figured it out the way LeBron did. I can't sit here and say that, and therefore he is not all NBA.
Now keep in mind, this was at the end of the 2019 NBA season, in a year that saw James lead the Houston Rockets to the 4th seed in the West with a 53-29 record by averaging 36, 7, and 6. With his reasoning being that the postseason is a part of the season too, and that Harden doesn't show up in the playoffs, which doesn't seem relevant for a regular season award. Rarely does the regular season MVP ever win the NBA championship in the same year, so it's just a weak argument, but an even worse prediction, because he would go on to say that the first team All-NBA should be
Is LeBron all NBA, yes or no? KD, Kawhi, the Freak, Steph. That's 5 dudes. Where's James Harden? Not there.
when only 2 of those even made the all-first team. But enough about Max Kellerman, I'm losing brain cells as we speak. When you watch First Take, oftentimes Stephen A. Smith is the voice of reason. He's a guy you can get behind, and sometimes is the guy you can count on to stand up for what's right. But maybe don't always believe everything he has to say, because not only does he have his fair share of horrible takes, but he once even predicted the NBA Finals wrong for 6 years in a row.
I gotta give Miami the edge in probably 7 games.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions.
Can the Thunder win a title
I didn't get to finish.
with Westbrook as point guard? The American people have spoken, and Stephen A. wins this debate.
The Miami Heat are once again NBA champions.
I think Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs pull it off.
It's back-to-back titles for the Heat.
It is perfect timing for LeBron James, King James, to show that he's got some Jordan-esque skills.
San Antonio is back on top once again.
I'm going with the Cavs.
The Golden State Warriors are the 2015 NBA champions.
I'm picking the Golden State Warriors.
The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
He had a 50-50 chance at getting things right for 6 years in a row between 2011 and 2017, and he didn't correctly guess it once. You could have got a non-basketball fan to just blindly guess, and they would have gotten more right than Stephen A. It's actually hard work to get that many wrong in a row. But I still don't know if that's as big of an L as Lynn Elmore took when he said this.
And his footwork could translate to another great center who played soccer by Hakeem Olajuwon.
If you wanted to say anything about Hasheem's defense and compare him to Dikembe Mutombo or something, I get it. I can live with that. But for him to say he could have had the same footwork as Hakeem Olajuwon is insane. The NBA regularly drug tests their players, but Len made them question whether they need to start testing their analysts too. Hasheem averaged 10 points a game in college and notoriously had no real offensive moves or abilities, which is why he went on to average 1 point a game in the NBA. But Lynn Elmore said he could have had footwork like Hakeem, who was an NBA legend. This one was wild because Lynn actually played in the league, and it's not common for an actual former player to make this this bad of a hot take. But how about a current player? Because back in 2003 when the Cavs were tanking their hearts out, the players were asked what they thought about a high school LeBron James, and the responses are hilarious.
We have better players than him in his position already on our team, though. His potential is probably the sky's the limit for him, though.
Oh, you mean Darius Miles and Jermaine Jones, who were both averaging 9 points a game? They were already better than LeBron was? Smush Parker said,
and he would come in and make an immediate impact like a Caron Butler. Did for the Miami Heat.
Oh, you mean the Caron Butler who came in and helped the Heat to 11 less wins in his rookie year and averaged 15 points a game? Alright, and Darius Miles said,
I don't think you can really just bring a high school player in and really just think your team gonna really turn around like that. You know what I'm saying? He can just hop on our bandwagon.
Which is pretty strange to hear from a fellow player that came into the league out of high school. But LeBron did exactly that, led the team and all these players in scoring by averaging 20 points a game and helped them to 18 more wins that year, instantly making all of them look bad for what they said. Now, NBADraft.net did the exact opposite of this in 2000, and they had a bold prediction about up-and-comer DeShawn Stevenson, who had a little bit of hype early on, but eventually turned out to be a nobody in the grand scheme of things, which was a terrible look for the site when they had compared him to Michael Jordan coming into the NBA. They compared a guy who instantly became a role player in the league to the greatest basketball player of all time, which pretty much instantly makes this the worst comparison ever. There should just be a handful of guys that should never be compared to any college or high school player for this very reason. But you can't always be right, and Paul Pierce learned that the hard way, because back in 2019, the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks were meeting in the second round of the playoffs, and Boston convincingly won Game 1 by 22 points. So Pierce said this.
I don't know where Milwaukee goes from here because
Whoa. So is this over?
I think it's over.
This series is over.
Yeah, they lost.
Game? You just sat there and said that they could win an NBA championship.
Yeah, I did say that.
It seemed a little early at the time, and it definitely was, because the Bucks would go on to win the next 4 games in a row to win the series. So ever since Paul Pierce opened his mouth, his team got swept. And sure, he's a respected player around the history of the game, but it goes to show that no matter how good you are, nobody is immune from a terrible NBA prediction, especially not Pierce, who had way too many of them.